The rain had stopped just an hour ago, leaving the cemetery soaked in silence and the scent of wet earth hanging thick in the air. High heels clicked softly on the cobblestone path as Amelia Grant, a woman known across the city for her cold precision and power in the corporate world, stepped through rows of gravestones. Her umbrella hung limply by her side. She didn't need it anymore. The storm had already passed, outside and within her. The only thing left was the ache that lived deep in her chest, one that no success, no boardroom victory, could ever silence. She stopped before a small gray tombstone that bore her son's name. Ethan James Grant, 2011-2019. Her throat tightened. It had been 6 years since that car accident, 6 years since she had held him for the last time. She crouched down, pressing her manicured hand against the cold marble, and whispered something only the wind could hear. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. These true stories remind us that no matter how broken life feels, love always finds a way back. Amelia had been a different person once, a warm mother, a devoted wife, and a woman who laughed easily. But after Ethan's death, something inside her hardened. Her husband couldn't bear the silence between them and left 2 years later. Work became her only refuge. She built an empire of glass towers and contracts, but every night, when she returned to her empty penthouse, the echo of her son's laughter haunted her. Every month, without fail, she visited his grave. She'd bring fresh lilies, his favorite, and spend exactly 30 minutes there before retreating into her car and back to the life she had built around walls of money and solitude. But today felt different. The wind carried a strange chill, and as she placed the flowers down, she noticed movement nearby. A few rows away, under a leafless oak, a woman knelt by another grave. She had dark brown hair pulled into a loose bun, her shoulders trembling as she cried quietly. Beside her stood a little girl, no more than 6 years old, holding a small bouquet of daisies. The child's wide eyes darted around the cemetery, uncertain, scared even. Amelia felt her heart tighten at the sight, not out of curiosity, but because something about them seemed out of place. The woman was speaking softly in Spanish, her words broken by sobs. At first, Amelia tried to ignore it, but the child's gaze caught hers. Those big brown eyes, innocent and uncertain, made something shift inside her. She wanted to turn away, but couldn't. The little girl tugged at her mother's sleeve, whispering something, and the woman shook her head. Moments later, the mother lost balance and fell forward onto the wet grass, clutching her chest. Amelia's instincts overrode her hesitation. She ran over, kneeling beside the woman. Hey, are you okay? She asked, but the woman's lips were pale, her breath shallow. The girl started crying. Amelia quickly called for help, and while waiting for the ambulance, she held the little girl's trembling hand. It's going to be all right, she whispered, though her own voice shook with fear she hadn't felt in years. When the paramedics arrived, the woman was barely conscious. They loaded her into the ambulance, and Amelia found herself standing there, drenched again from the drizzle that had returned. The girl clung to her leg. Please, don't leave Mama, she sobbed in a heavy accent. Amelia hesitated. She looked down at the small hands gripping her skirt, fragile, desperate, and something inside her broke. She couldn't walk away. Not this time. She rode with them to the hospital. The doctors later told her that the woman, Isabella Morales, had collapsed. From exhaustion and malnutrition, she had been living in a small rented room, working cleaning jobs to care for her daughter, Lucia. The stress and grief had taken their toll. When Amelia asked what happened, the nurse explained that Isabella had lost her husband in a construction accident a year ago, and the grave she had visited was his. That night, Amelia sat in the hospital hallway watching Lucia sleep on a chair beside her mother's room. Something about the girl reminded her of Ethan, the same shy smile, the same quiet curiosity. For the first time in years, Amelia felt something stir in her chest other than pain. She wanted to help, but a voice inside her whispered, "You've done enough. You can't save everyone." Yet as the hours passed, that voice grew weaker. When Isabella woke, weak but conscious, Amelia offered to help. At first, the Spanish woman refused, embarrassed and wary. "You've already done too much," she murmured in broken English. But Amelia insisted. "It's nothing," she said. "I just want to make sure you and your daughter are okay." Over the following days, Amelia visited them often. She helped Isabella find better housing and offered to cover some expenses until she recovered. At first, she told herself it was just charity, a way to do something good for once. But as time passed, it became more than that. She found herself enjoying Lucia's laughter, her stories about school and her innocent questions. Each time the little girl smiled, Amelia felt a piece of her frozen heart melt. Weeks turned into months. Isabella regained her strength and started working part-time at one of Amelia's company branches, thanks to a recommendation letter Amelia personally wrote. She proved hard-working and kind, a quiet woman with a past filled with struggle but eyes that carried hope. Amelia admired that. Then, one evening, as the sun dipped behind the skyline, Amelia invited them to her home for dinner. Lucia ran around her penthouse, fascinated by everything shiny and new. Isabella, nervous but grateful, thanked her again. Amelia smiled softly. "You remind me of someone I lost," she admitted, her voice trembling. "My son." Isabella's eyes softened with understanding. She took Amelia's hand. "Maybe God sent us to you," she whispered, "so your heart could heal, and so my daughter could feel safe again." That night, when they left, Amelia stood by the window long after the door closed. The city lights blurred behind her tears. She realized that for the first time since Ethan's death, she had felt peace. But peace, as she soon learned, rarely comes without a test. A few months later, a fire broke out in the building where Isabella and Lucia lived. The flames spread fast, trapping several families. Amelia heard about it on the news and drove there without thinking. The streets were chaos, smoke, sirens, shouting. Her heart pounded as she searched for their faces among the crowd. She finally found them, or rather, she found Lucia crying outside, wrapped in a blanket. The girl was safe, but Isabella hadn't made it out yet. Amelia froze, panic flooding her chest. "Where's your mother?" she demanded, and Lucia pointed to the top floor where flames still raged. Without hesitation, Amelia ran toward the building, only to be stopped by firefighters. "Ma'am, it's too dangerous," one shouted. But she couldn't stand there and do nothing. She felt as though fate had brought these two into her life for a reason. She wasn't about to lose one of them now. Minutes felt like hours until, finally, two firefighters emerged from the building carrying Isabella. She was alive, but unconscious, covered in soot and barely breathing. Amelia rushed forward, tears streaming down her face. "You're safe," she whispered, even though Isabella couldn't hear her. The hospital days that followed were the hardest. Isabella was placed in intensive care for smoke inhalation and severe burns. Amelia stayed beside Lucia day and night, comforting her, feeding her, reading her stories, doing all the things she once did for Ethan. The girl began calling her Tia Amelia, which made her heart ache in the sweetest way. When Isabella finally woke weeks later, she was weak but smiling. She reached for Amelia's hand and whispered, "Thank you for saving us." But Amelia shook her head. "No," she said softly, tears in her eyes. "You saved me first." Time passed. Isabella recovered slowly but fully, and she and Lucia moved into a small apartment not far from Amelia's home. Their lives began to intertwine like family, weekend dinners, school events, birthdays. Amelia even found herself laughing again, something she thought she had forgotten how to do. On what would have been Ethan's 14th birthday, Amelia visited his grave again. This time, she wasn't alone. Isabella stood quietly beside her, holding Lucia's hand. The little girl placed a small toy car, one of her favorites, on the grave. "For your son," she said shyly, "so he can play in heaven." Amelia's voice broke as she whispered a thank you. She realized that love never truly dies, it just finds new ways to live, through kindness, through connection, through unexpected people who walk into your life when you least expect it. As they stood there in silence, a gentle wind passed through the trees, scattering petals across the graves. The clouds parted, and sunlight spilled over them, soft and golden. Amelia looked up, and for the first time in years, she smiled without sadness behind it. She had come to the cemetery to mourn, but she left that day with a heart reborn. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories that remind us of the power of love, kindness, and second chances. Special request: tell us in the comments, what moment in your life restored your faith and kindness? And as Amelia walked away that day, hand in hand with little Lucia, she whispered a quiet promise to the wind, that she would keep loving, not because of what she had lost, but because of what she had found.